It's bûche de Noël. It's not bouche, it's bûche. Bûche. Bûche, bûche, bûche. Growing up in our family, we always had bûche de Noël. It's something that is like deep into the French roots. Hi everyone, I'm Chef Dominique Ansel and we're here at Dominique Ansel Workshop. And in my test kitchen today I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas Yule-log or bûche de Noël. Something really fun for the holidays that we share with family. So we're going to get started with the chocolate biscuit or sponge cake, which is actually very nice. It's flourless. We use cocoa powder, eggs and sugar. So first we're going to whip the yolks with the sugar. We're going to create almost like a sabayon, very light, fluffy yolks. We're going to whip them until they're pale and white. Alright, sabayon or yolks and sugar is now whipped. You can see it's very, very light, very pale. So we're going to keep this to the side here and then we're going to whip the egg whites. So we're going to add the egg whites here. And once it's forming, we're going to start adding the sugar gradually. You don't want to add all the sugar right away in the egg whites. Otherwise, your egg whites will be too heavy. So it's going to absorb all the sugar and make all the egg whites like heavier. Then I'm going to add the yolks. Very important step here will be to incorporate everything quickly. You don't want the egg whites to set. Add all the yolks at once. I'm going to fold it gently here. And it's not fully combined here, but I'm going to start adding cocoa powder. Very important not to over mix this. The more you fold in and the more you mix it, the more you're going to break down the egg whites and the more it's going to collapse. So you want to be as gentle as possible. It should look like this. Very light, still a little stiff. So then we're going to take chip pans lined with a silicone mat. So here we're going to pour all the sponge cake into the mat. And you can see those like big air pockets right here. That's what indicates that the biscuit is like very, very light and fluffy. I'm going to push the batter to the corner here. We're going to fold as light and as gentle as possible. You don't want to like spread it over and over too many times. So I'm going to make it as thin as possible. So bûche de Noël, the translation from French will be a log for Christmas. In the old days, when people were wealthy, they had wood to put in the chimney to warm up the house. And that indicates that you had a little bit of wealth or you could afford to buy wood to put in your chimney. And the pastry chef wanted to create a pastry that indicates the holidays, and that's when they created the bûche de Noël or the Yule-log. So we're gonna bake our sponge cake at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for a few minutes until the center is set. All right, our next step, we're gonna make the vanilla syrup, which will be used to soak the chocolate sponge. Very simple here, we're gonna have water, sugar, and a little bit of vanilla extract. Our syrup came to a boil right now. We're gonna put it to the side. Let it cool a little bit. It's good to use it when it's still warm, but not too hot. Let's check on our chocolate biscuit. So what I'm looking for is to check in the center. I want a little bit of like firmness, a little bit of bounciness to the cake. There's not much coloration on the outside. It's light and puffy, and it's fully set all throughout. So we're gonna let this cool a little bit for a few minutes before we flip it and then start soaking with the syrup. All right, next up, we're gonna make our chocolate mousse to go inside the Yule-log cake. First, we're gonna add the gelatin powder into the water. We're gonna leave it to the side to set. And then we're gonna make what we call the ganache with the chocolate and the milk. So we're gonna heat up the milk. Here we have the gelatin. We're gonna add it into the milk. We brought the milk to a boil, and then we're gonna pour this into the chocolate here to melt the chocolate. And we're going to essentially emulsify the milk with the chocolate. Next step, we're gonna whip this cream to what we call a soft peak, so not over whipped. That's it, no more than that. All right, now it's time to assemble everything. We have our sponge cake here. Flip it upside down on a parchment paper right here. Then you can see like those like micro air bubbles right here all throughout the cake. That show this like it's very, very light inside. We're gonna bring the simple syrup and brush the syrup into the sponge cake. So this will make it so the cake stays moist and will also be easier to roll. So now my sponge cake is well soaked all throughout. Just gonna cut the edge, do a little trimming right here on the side, so there's no differences of thickness. Then I'm going to fold my chocolate mousse. So remember here I have the ganache. You want this to be about body temperature. And I'm gonna fold this into the cream. You're gonna incorporate everything gently. Next, we're going to add our chocolate mousse to the sponge cake. Pour everything right here in the center. We're gonna spread the mousse all throughout the cake. So we're gonna do a nice thin layer right here. And then we're gonna do the fun part. We're gonna roll the bûche. So we're gonna start from the bottom. We're gonna fold the biscuit right here. Then we're gonna push it with the parchment paper up a little bit. Make it a little tight right here. And you can see the sponge cake is moist, but it still have the little skin to help us pushing it off and forming into a log. I'm gonna stop right here, push the paper together to make it tight, and then roll it on the paper again, just to keep the round nice and round shape. Then I'm gonna place this into a fridge for about 2 hours until it's set, and then we're gonna make the chocolate ganache to decorate the bûche. This chocolate ganache has a few different steps. We're gonna make first a crème anglaise. So we're gonna start with the milk and cream here. We're gonna place into the pot and bring to a boil. Then while this is heating up, we're gonna mix the yolks with the sugar. You wanna whisk it right away. So here you can see I work with induction, so it works pretty fast. It's already almost coming to a boil. So I'm gonna whisk this, I'm gonna put this aside. And before we add the yolks, I do what I call tempering, meaning that we're gonna add a little bit of the liquid right here to the yolks, whisk it right away. The reason we do that is because we don't want to add all the yolks in the boiling liquid right away. It'll cook immediately and turn into scrambled eggs. Put this back into the stove, add everything back into the pot right here, and we're gonna cook this to 85 degrees Celsius. I always recommend to, when you do this at home, to use a thermometer to really check the temperature. You can also do it without, but it takes a little bit more experience. I actually don't have a thermometer right now, so I'm gonna do it without it. Once our crème anglaise is done here, we're gonna pour it into the chocolate to make the ganache. And same as we did earlier with chocolate mousse, we're gonna have to emulsify the chocolate. And then, I haven't forgotten about our last preparation here. We have water and cocoa powder. And then this we don't cook, we always add at the end. Because if we were to cook the cocoa powder, it would have some strange, like bitter flavor that you don't want in there. You're gonna mix this, add this together right here. That's it, that's pretty much it. So we're gonna set this aside, let it chill a little bit. We're gonna proceed into making the chocolate decoration for the bûche. So I have what we call an acetate sheet, where we put a little bit of our gold dust on it, very festive. I'm gonna put this on my counter right here. I have some tempered chocolate that's been previously tempered. So tempering chocolate goes to heating it up to a certain temperature, dropping it down, heating it back up to incorporate the molecules and the fat of cocoa butter into the chocolate. So that makes it like thin, nice, beautiful and shiny. I'm gonna put the chocolate into the acetate sheet right here. We're gonna pour a little bit of chocolate on the edge, just to like kind of like seal at the end the chocolate into the countertop. So we want to make it not too thin, not too thick, just the right thickness. So it should be a few millimeters thick. I'm going to transfer this to another part of the counter that is cold. So I'm going to wait a few seconds for the chocolate to start setting. And then here I have some star cutters, so simple star cutters. This is pretty good to start cutting, so just going to punch this out. Of course, it's Christmas, it's the holidays. You can do anything that you feel will be fun and festive. The craziest bûche I've ever made, I think, it was a bûche that was made to order. Yes, made to order. That sounds a little crazy. It was back in the days when I was at Fauchon. We had done a bûche with a center that was made with almond paste. So very creamy almond. Inside the bûche mold, we had placed berries and we had poured an agar gelée into the mold and drop the almond cream in the center that was frozen. It will set instantly and it will unmold it within a minute or two and cut it. So it was freshly made to order. That was a little insane because we barely had time to like make them as people were ordering them. But it was a fun memory of like making bûche, and I think it was like probably most popular for the holidays. But we never made it again because it was too crazy. So here for my bûche ends, I'm gonna cut some squares. The best way to do this is really to cut when the chocolate is setting. So it's not fully set yet. When the chocolate is cut, we're gonna let it rest for about a few hours and then we'll pop it out and decorate the bûche. Last part of the making of the bûche, we're going to decorate everything. So I'm gonna take my bûche that's been sitting in the fridge. I'm gonna place my bûche, which is more firm here. we're gonna glaze the bûche. So we're gonna use the ganache that's been sitting outside for a bit of time. You can see it's like getting firm here. Texture is almost like a smooth, like toothpaste texture. I'm gonna use. Brush my teeth with that too. I'm gonna use a glove for this. We're gonna get a little messy here, but trust me, this is the best tool to glaze the bûche. I'm gonna put a little bit of the ganache right here on top of the bûche. It is actually a perfect texture. With my fingers straight, I'm gonna push the ganache towards the side of the bûche, form a thin and uniform layer all throughout. And I'm gonna turn it and do the same thing on the other side. Get a good layer of this like beautiful like creamy ganache. Once we're here, I'm gonna use a small offset spatula. I'm just gonna push and I'm gonna do the design. So I'm gonna do a simple design here today. I'm gonna scrape the excess of ganache here on the side. What I like to do is trim off the side so you get a clean edge. And of course, save the trimming. That's the chef piece here. So I just had a flashback memory as when I was a kid. One of the first bûche I actually decorated was, I remember precisely, it was coffee buttercream bûche. And the way we were instructed at school to decorate it was with a fork, to give those kind of lines that resemble to the lines in the wood, to make it look like a log, a wooden log. And I think that's a little bit more modern design, but it's the same idea and the same inspiration. All right, last step into making our bûche, we're gonna place the please stop it. Last step into making the bûche, we're gonna place the decoration on top. First, the bûche ends. I'm gonna place this at the end, and you see they're beautiful and golden. So we're gonna start with all the large stars in the back, then move on to the medium, and finish with the small one. There we go, it's our chocolate bûche de Noël. We made it. All right, the moment of truth. We're gonna have a little slice. So as you can see here, we have this beautiful cake that is like nice and thin, the chocolate mousse in between, the ganache on the outside, simple syrup soaked in a sponge cake. So I can tell you already what it tastes like. I'm gonna have a little bite right here. This is beautiful, it's creamy, it's moist, it's chocolatey, but not too chocolatey. It's a warm dessert for the holidays. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy everything. Click on the link below for the recipe. And happy holidays. Very nice, everyone. Say it again. Can you hear it? Bûche de Noël. Bûche de Noël, not bouche de Noël. Stop saying bouche, guys.